Hey, Arcturus here. Today we're looking at two Necron characters, Imotekh the Stormlord and Orikan the Diviner. Both are new releases, I think this past November, and are a great update from the Citadel Finecast that we had previously. I do wish that they had updated Trazen as well. I think it would have gone great as a release with Orikan, I think they did a new edition or hardcover version of The Infinite and Divine, which was a really fun book about the Necrons from Games Workshop's Black Library publishing house. But I do think the two models we got here were great. Orikan is definitely a cool looking model. I think it would have been cool if they'd done him with two models, kind of like Morathi, where you have a Satan version of Orikan, and then you have this version of Orikan to kind of show his empowered form. But we got the one, and I think the one does look great. Then we also got Imotekh the Stormlord, who's been pretty much the main Necron Lord, although there have been a few others that they've since gotten, at least they got rid of a few of those, and I think there's still a few left that are also named. But Imotech's been the main named Necron Lord before the Silent King return. We're going to start off with Imotekh the Stormlord, so I'll set Orikan off to the side. And we'll start off first by looking at the sprue, and then we will look at the finished models. So here we have the sprue for Imotekh the Stormlord. Lots of nice details on here. You even have a tiny scarab underneath the cape that's probably going to be hidden by Imotech's body, but you also get one here on the back as well. Very nicely detailed staff. I think this is a really good model. I also really like the base attachment that you get with it. I think that's pretty cool for the Necrons. You have this kind of Necron style staircase going up. That's very nice detail there. So that's the sprue for Imotekh. Next up is the sprue for Orikan the Diviner. Open this and set that off to the side there. So here we have a similarly detailed sprue, although of course the details are different. You get more of a Cobra style headdress here with Orikan, where it's kind of the flared out side flaps there, or maybe a frilled lizard style instead. Some very interesting spine arrangements. Makes me think, which is why I think it's more of a cobra than a frilled lizard, because you get more of the snake-like shape here. You also get some very detailed cape or cloak attachments, the more cryptek style as opposed to the Lord cloaks, and a very detailed staff, reminiscent of the Chronomancer, also a cryptek, but more of a generic version of Orikan. Some very nice plating here, more, again, snake-like, I think. As well as you get his own tactical rock there for him to float over. Overall, I think looking at these two, they look very nice. So here we have the two finished models. We'll take a look at Orikan first, as I think he is pretty cool for a cryptek. I think the crypteks are pretty cool in general. I do like that Orikan has some of the Chronomancer additions, or in terms of this orb that he has in his staff, and the kind of puzzle box sort of thing. I think that's pretty cool. I like his really long tail and cobra-like headdress here. The cape is nice, fairly reminiscent of the standard crypteks. I like the back piece here with the plates. I think it's a very cool addition, and the extra power orbs on the top there I think are pretty cool. I do like this little puzzle box thing, though. I think that's pretty cool how it's kind of like forming or unforming, whichever way it's going. And his pose, I think, is really great. It's pretty stable. It's got two contact points on the base, one here with the cape, and then one here with his tail. So I think it feels pretty sturdy, even though he's kind of a floating model. I did try to have his staff be more directly upright, but it is kind of tilting, and I think that's just due to how the arm sits in the socket there. It has a little bit of adjustability, but not a ton, and I was going for a more upright version than the slanted you get on the box art, but I think it came out pretty good. The reason I wanted it more slanted was when I put it in the first time it was in contact with the legs, so I didn't want that because it makes it more difficult to paint. Although it does have some movement, and it did kind of shift over time, even though I thought I had let it set, so I suspect maybe I didn't let it sit long enough. Next, we'll look at Imotekh, who looks very good, especially compared to his resin version. I had looked at the resin version for both of these several years ago at this point, and just decided that the fine cast wasn't worth it. So I'm very glad these are in plastic now. I do hope they update some of the other ones. We already got Illuminator Xeris, who has a really cool model, and I hope we get Trazyn at least, if not a few of the other ones, although I think they did take several of them out of the most recent codex, so they may no longer exist as models in the range. Well, I think that'd be a shame, because I think they're pretty cool. Although I guess there's a limit to how many named characters you should have. So you can still see the scarabs there on the cloak. I thought they would be more covered by the torso. I think that's a nice touch, and of course you have some 2 or 3, or even, oh, there's 4 on the back there. 3 on this side, and then here. I like the cloak. It goes together very seamlessly. There's a seam actually here where it's 2 separate pieces, but it goes together really well. I think it's a very nice pose for a hero model or a lord model to have. The staff is nice. I like the detail, although I do like Orikan's staff a little better, but I do think the staff is cool. It's got some nice little details on it. The hand is the traditional pose for Imotekh there on the right hand with the claws. That's a holdover from his Finecast model, and I think it looks great. It kind of distinguishes him from the standard Lord where they have the resurrection orbs. You've got him having that clawed hand. If I remember correctly, it had a weapon profile, at least in 9th edition and before, but that may no longer be the case. I remember from the index they looked pretty good, but I just decided I was going to play Tau this edition for what games I'm able to get in. So I just really like the models. The Necrons were some of my first alien models. His head is fairly standard. Not much to say beyond that. He's got like a larger back piece there with the power core on the top. But beyond that, just a really solid model. If you weren't running him as Imotekh, you could easily swap him in as a Overlord, and I don't think any opponents would complain. I wouldn't complain, at least. There's some small detail on the legs that I don't recall seeing on some of the Overlords, where you get some runes carved into the legs there on both sides, and some on the calves as well, which I think is a nice touch. And then he gets this nice step sort of base, which I think is a great touch. Well, that's all I have for you this week. I will see you next week with another video.